My name is Greg Miniger, and I'm the sales manager at SIS-NW. I've been helping organizations with business automation solutions and services for decades. Today I have with me our partner and co-presenter, Brian Silverman with Formed AI. It shows Kyle Lassiter on the slide. Unfortunately, Kyle is not feeling well today, so Brian is going to take his place. Brian has a broad and impressive range of experience helping companies with software solutions for over 20 years, and he's been digging deep into automation since 2015. I think you'll find his knowledge of AP automation pretty impressive. For this webinar, Brian and I will address the advantages, including cost savings, of AP automation. We'll also show you a live demo so you can see how it works. Sorry, our agenda for today will cover these topics. First, I'll outline the problem we address by automating your payables process. Second, I'll pass things over to Brian for a demo. And third, we'll discuss options that are available for AP automation. At the end of our presentation, we'll open it up for questions. Please send any questions you have in the chat window to the presenters, and we'll have a look at the end. So let's begin. I want to start off with a day in the life of most AP departments. So here's a summary of AP department challenges as we outlined in our last webinar. First, manual entry and processing of invoices is still a reality in many AP departments. It is typically not addressed by your ERP solution. In fact, did you know that across industries, 36 to 44% of invoices are still paper-based? And for those electronic invoices, some companies route invoices via emails for approval, printing them out and sometimes scanning them, creating more work and headaches. Manual and paper processes are here to stay for the foreseeable future. Despite the pain of performing these manual tasks, you're constrained with limited staff. Perhaps your top management thinks that electronic invoicing is the trend and it will make things easier on your staff soon, but it's not the trend, in fact. Or perhaps you're being forced to consider staff reductions or can't complete all of your tasks and projects. The work is there, but how do you do it with less staff? Finally, you want things to run more smoothly, to submit payments in a timely manner, to be able to take advantage of vendor discounts and build strong vendor relationships. You know things could be done better, but may be unsure if AP automation is for you. Like the picture on the right, you know that the time spent processing invoices could be reduced and the labor costs for performing manual tasks could be lessened. But how? By the way, if you are not sure if these are your challenges, we can help you quantify your cost and potential return on investment. At SIS-NW, we offer a free business case assessment that takes about 30 minutes, as we mentioned in our last webinar. What I often find is the problem is bigger than you think. So I suggest it's worth at least a quick conversation. For one thing, the cost of manual processing is greater than a lot of people realize. Manually processing an invoice costs anywhere from $4 to $23, depending on your methods, according to third-party research. So you may have the staff, but staff for manual processes are so very expensive. Manual processes and paper are costs that are hidden within companies. For example, once you have hired staff to do the work, that person is seen as just another overhead cost. But again, the cost can be surprising, and if there are mistakes, the costs go up. So let me back up for a moment and make sure you know what I mean when I talk about manual processing. The diagram on this slide shows and provides some context about the manual steps of processing an invoice. So first you receive the invoice and open mail, prep documents, sort it out, and then you have to do your GL coding into your enterprise resource system, sorry. And then invoices need to be reviewed. Sometimes that's validating the invoice against purchase order, matching it up with a packing slip, but somebody has to look at it and make sure that you got the things that you ordered and that the costs are correct. And then things to get routed for approvals. That might be to department heads, a manager, it might be to the CFO if it's over a certain dollar amount. And then once everybody's done that process, it goes back to the AP department where finally it gets released for payment. And then you have the issue of storing the records, which often means somebody scanning them or sending them to an offsite storage vendor, which adds to the cost. When this is done manually, as you know, you're open to delays, lack of visibility into the status of the invoices, and mistakes. In fact, and I often talk about this in my presentations, 100% of accounting offices make mistakes somewhere. It's a big point. The more repetitive, mundane, and higher volume of tasks, the more mistakes. I see this all the time. Mistakes can be data entered incorrectly or lost from a poor scan. And when those mistakes are not caught early, the cost of invoice processing is driven up. Mistakes are easy to make when people are very busy, go too fast, or multitask. So that's the introduction to the problem we are addressing with AP automation. So I'm going to pass things over to Brian, who will show you what can be done.
Thanks, Greg. Let you flip to the next slide. Can you hear me, Greg? Make sure I'm coming through the voice.
Yes. Yep. Okay. You're good.
Okay. Oh, you want me to present the slide too? Okay, hang on. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to, where's my screen share? Is the right screen coming through, Greg? The presentation.
I made you the presenter, so I don't see it.
Oh boy.
On my end. If you want, Brian, I can.
Yeah,
I can do.
Fighting with
the two.
I apologize. Okay, hold on. I got it. I see what's going on.
Okay. Thanks for your patience, everybody, as we work through these temporary technical difficulties. And thanks, Brian, for stepping in for Kyle.
Yep. There we go. Content. There we go. Now I got the right stuff going. Okay. Got the right browser, everything going now. Okay. Apologies, everybody. Some minor technical things. I hope the right screen is coming through now. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Good. Sorry, everybody. Okay, we're back on track. So before I show the demo, everybody, here are some highlights of what can really be automated for accounts payable. First, really, an AP automation process is really about improving repetitive work. You can actually reduce about 80% of your labor inside your AP department, and there are specific ways in how to do this. The biggest way is automating that data entry and validation. That's where the lion's share of work is done and where the lion's share of just time is spent is that data entry into your accounting systems, whether it be QuickBooks or Sage, GP, SAP, etc. That's where we often see just that big time commitment. So with FormDI, what we do is we can actually process that data for you and get 99% data accuracy, which is really unheard of across the industry. The next thing you can do is automate repetitive rules. So we find patterns to improve that repetitive work. And so what makes us special is our engine can identify certain rules that keep repeating, And by using AI and using some scripting, we are able to build these rules and it learns as it goes. We can also build rules up front. So for example, if you have a specific set of vendors that always get certain general ledger coding, we can establish those rules up front. Again, now saving you time, saving you clicks, and improving that efficiency. And then finally, through AP automation, we're able to create workflows that are managed and contained. So this is for all your approval processes. A well-designed software solution that can truly contain the process, giving you the needed control and visibility that you may be missing today, including notifications and reporting for all the work that is currently in progress. But let me demonstrate this and these points in action, all right? So I'm gonna minimize my PowerPoint here, and we're gonna get into the live show and tell. Get that off the screen. Actually, I'm gonna start with a different screen first. Drag this one over because I want to start with this one. Okay, so with our cloud-based system, every user gets an inbox, and inbox is where any current tasks, any current invoices, or any other tasks based in the system are assigned to them. Now, everything is laid out very user-friendly, very simple. So what I can do here is I can just click on any one of the queues that are in my inbox. Now, I'm logged in as an administrator, so I'm going to see a lot more than a standard user. Standard user would typically see maybe between 1 to 10, maybe 20 tasks at any point in time. I'm seeing a lot more based on my access. But as a typical user, if I want to process an invoice, it's very easy. I'm able to see some header information that tells me a little bit about the invoice, the vendor name, an invoice number, a date, and a total. And this little information down here at the far right, this little bubble, tells me the step that it's on. So if I click on that, I'm able to now go into my invoice processing screen. This is, again, a very easy, user-friendly laid out interaction screen where I can see the actual invoice image and all the data elements that this system has pulled. Now, it's really important to tell you how it got to this phase. What we do for all of our clients is we collect your invoices and we figure out the path of least resistance to getting your invoices into our cloud service center. It then goes through a dual verification process. We read the invoice using something called OCR technology, and then we have a human actual validate that invoice data before it gets pushed into this cloud system. So that is how we're able to achieve that 99% data accuracy. We're able to pull all these key elements that's required for you to process the invoice and push it to your accounting system and then cut a check to that vendor. So you can rest assured that once it arrives here in the system, we've already done that lion's share of work we were talking about up front. Now it's up to you and your users to code the invoice, approve it, and send it off to your accounting platform. And that's all done right here through the easy interface on the left. Everything is synced directly from the ERP system. You'll see here if I click on the vendor table, all of my vendors are synced directly from my ERP. Same with general ledger coding. You can see all my general ledger codes are listed here in this dropdown. Now, fear not, you don't have to scroll through a long list of dropdowns. You're able to type ahead and narrow down the specific codes that you want to find for your items. And like I mentioned earlier, if we're able to, we can identify specific GL codes for vendors or other rules and save you additional clicks by pre-coding many of your invoices. Now, we also have rules that catch balances and balance issues. You can see here that there's something that's off. You'll see that this should be equal to the total of the invoice, which is all of our line items. Something's amiss. What we can see here is that the invoice total is off by a few cents. Just by simply making that correction, you can see the invoice will balance out and is now adjusted. So now I can go through and I can just finish my general ledger coding for whatever the GL code should be. And I can come down here and hit approve. Now, some of the other benefits of the system are a complete audit history and a communications platform here at the bottom as well. If I minimize my image just for a moment here, you can see that now I've uncovered the actual workflow process. So I can see all the steps that this invoice is now going to travel through to eventually get to its end location, which is the export to my ERP system. But right now we can see it's on the general ledger coding step. So if I have a question, let's say for somebody else, some other user in my company, I can add them to this step. I can simply click add participant. I can go find who I want to add. I want to add Shirley. I can say, hey, Shirley. Shirley, how does this invoice look? Can you please approve? And just by hitting save and send, I can now include her onto that invoice, and she'll get a notification telling her, hey, I need to look at this invoice. It'll be in her inbox, and she can now communicate with me directly through the system. So again, it brings a nice 50,000-foot view of visibility to all of your invoices, all of the processing at any given time. And once this now gets approved, you can see we get a little green checkbox here. It now moves on to the controller step, where Brian, which is me, of course, would then need to approve it, and then it would move off to its export step and integrate directly with that ERP platform. Now, some other great ways that the system helps visibility is with two key components of this platform, the register and the dashboard. I flipped to another system here that has a little bit more data in it, so I can show you some of the benefits when you're working with hundreds and sometimes thousands of invoices. You can, in the register, this is basically just a rolling archive of every single invoice that is currently or has gone through processing. You can see I can just scroll through this list for days on end, as there's thousands of invoices in the system. But obviously, that presents a challenge of how do I find things? Well, the great thing about the register is all the abilities to filter to specifically find what you're looking for. So if there is a way for me, let's say a vendor calls in and says, I want to know what open invoices do I have with you? Well, let me find out, Mr. Vendor. I'm going to look for open LLC. I'm going to hit apply, and that's now going to filter this entire list in just a matter of seconds to show me just those invoices for open. And then I want to say, you know what, I want to see all the invoices for April. I'm going to say April 2020 and apply. And now I filtered it down to those. And one last filter, I'm going to say, I want to see all invoices between $1,000 and $2,000. Filtered even more. So the filters drive a lot of great control to really narrow down and get specific reporting data that you need, whether it's on a vendor level or any other type of report that you need to generate for your accounting or audit histories. The other thing that we can do with this data once it's filtered is you now have the ability to export this data to an Excel-friendly file. So that data can now be manipulated even more, provided to a vendor, provided to other departments, etc. The other key element of the system are the dashboards. The dashboards really provide some graphs and widgets that tell you all about your current AP process. There are aging reports. We can break down invoices by specific types if you do have those. We can show you invoices and where they currently are at every step in your process. And almost all of these widgets are drillable, meaning you can dive into the data. So if I want to see these 99 invoices that are sitting on this step 6 of my workflow process, I can simply click on that and it takes me right to the register and shows me those 99 invoices, where I can further drill into these and find out more information about them. So the dashboard is just a really nice 50,000-foot view to see almost everything in the system. And these dashboards as well are filterable by date range. So I can look at the last 30 days, last 7 days. I can look at a specific month or year and filter that information where I say, you know what, I just want to see February 2020 dashboard information, and that information is going to change for me and now show me all the information that's relevant to February 2020. So a couple great ways to really take control of the visibility of your process. Lastly, the last thing that I'm going to mention is, since we've been around for the better part of 15, almost 16 years now, is we have hundreds of integrations already built to many of the major ERP platforms that are out there. As you heard me mention earlier, Microsoft Dynamics, also called GP, Sage, SAP, Oracle, Infor, and so on. We already have these integrations set and ready to integrate and help you manage that AP process and bring that efficiency and control to you.
So, I mentioned we take a consultative approach and work with partners like Formed AI. And also, we showed you accounts payable today, but there are really a lot of other areas where this technology can help your business. And our services go beyond setting up software automation. We offer outsourced services. And in particular, one of the ones that I think is really interesting to people right now in our current work environment is, virtual mailroom. And so really any process where you have mail coming into your business and you have data within those documents that you need to work with and capture, we can build a process to manage that. This diagram shows how we build really an assembly line process that's based on your existing workflow, and build some automation into that, as well as a lot of quality control, segregation of duties, and really strong validation of the work that gets done. So we started our company in 2008. We've had a lot of experience doing this, and our quality assurance process is based on project management principles, and we always work to leverage the best technologies out there. So it could be that you're fine with the way you're set up today, but I'd be happy to have a short call with any of you to see if you have enough volume of invoices for our service to have value to you. And with that, this is our contact information, and I think we had some questions. Let me go to the chat window. So first one, we buy a lot of inventory with parts that sometimes we need to manually enter. How does automation work for that? And I'll hand that one off to Brian. Put you on the spot.
Sorry, repeat the question for me, Greg.
We buy a lot of inventory with parts that sometimes we need to manually enter. How does automation work for that?
That you need to manually. So you buy a lot of parts that you need to manually enter. That's a really good question. I'm trying to understand how we could automate that for you. So you're entering these parts. I wish I could see the question on my screen. So you're entering these parts into your accounting platform. Is that the gist of the question?
I think so, and I think really it's just a matter of how we do things and capture data out of invoices. So whether those are handwritten or machine generated, we capture that data.
Yeah. So now I see the question on my screen. For some reason, it wasn't coming through. So those line items. So if you're talking about now actually creating those parts in your ERP system, that's a little outside the lines. Obviously, when the invoices come through, we're able to read all the invoice data and extract those line items of those parts off of the invoice and push them into our cloud-based system. But and we can obviously then create that invoice in your ERP, but if you're actually talking about creating those parts in the ERP system, that's a little outside the lines of AP processing. Now, I'm not saying that we couldn't investigate and potentially find a solution for that, but that really isn't part of the webinar per se that we just went through.
Okay. And the next question is, I have different people that do AP. Do I need to train them all?
Good question. So we provide full training. Well, we can provide videos. We can record sessions that you can then distribute to your other personnel. There's also help guides that are online for processing. We can put together how-to guides. So we definitely don't leave you in the lurch. We want to provide. We see this as an avenue to increase your efficiency, not deplete your efficiency. So we want to make you and your team as successful as possible using the software.
And one of the questions that came in a little bit earlier was, is there visibility into the processes so we can view at any time? I'd want to see what it's doing. And I think you showed that when you showed both the dashboard as well as the workflow. So I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's obviously one of the critical pieces of any AP process is just knowing where stuff is currently sitting and how long it's potentially taking to process so you don't incur late fees from your vendors. So as Greg mentioned, both the register and the dashboard provide you those utilities to really help bring that visibility and that immediate visibility that you need. Or at any time of the day, anytime you need to, you can click into one of those and see, why are these two invoices in Bob's inbox? Let me drill into these. Bob, why are you taking so long to approve these, et cetera? So you'll have that right at a click or two of your fingertips to get that information.
Awesome. And I think that's all the questions that we have, and I think that's all the time that we have. I have my contact information on the screen as well as Jim Mountain. So primarily I cover Washington State, and Jim Mountain is our representative in Oregon. We do have customers all over the country, and in fact in other parts of the world, but the majority of our clients are here in the Northwest. So if you'd like to reach out to either one of us and have any questions, feel free. Thank you everybody for your time today. We really appreciate your taking the time to visit with us, and hope that this was informative. And Brian, thank you for your help today. And with that, we'll end the webinar. Thank you.